Hi, everybody. Episode 8 of Unsolicited Advice with me, Jacob Zobrist. Couldn't be more excited to bring you today's episode. Larry, unfortunately, had to reschedule, which is fine. We're rescheduled for Friday, so that means I'm just going to do it on Friday, which is cool. Very cool with me. I love Friday stuff. So yeah, it left me at kind of an improv day. Day 8, right? So I've been doing it for 7 days, making a podcast every day, and I've been hearing myself speak a lot in a recorded fashion rather than just me talking to myself in my car, on the street, in my room, on the whatever podcast. Talk to myself quite a bit. Like a crazy person. So I use a lot of words incorrectly, including use. I say Hughes, and it is driving me up the wall. Hughes. No more. So if anything, I'll learn that. I'll take away that from this podcast experience, which will be beneficial to all, I believe. What else is new? So, Justin called me today, as he does, and he said something very nice. He said that I like how you're... In the last podcast, I said I can't wait to keep going about this 30-day challenge, and it's true. I've enjoyed this very much, and it's been a real test for me. And I guess what Justin was impressed with was the fact that I said that I can't wait for it to be over, which was what a lot of people would say during a 30-day challenge, I guess, or at least Justin's observed that a lot of people say they can't wait for things to be over. No, I want to keep doing this. It's challenging sometimes, but I really feel driven to finish it. I haven't finished much in my adult life. Never been the most disciplined of individuals. You know, I get distracted easily. A new shiny thing comes in my face. I'd rather play with that than a previously, now less shiny thing. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm really going to try to keep this one going. So, today, what do I talk about? I'm not going to talk about the news, because that's boring. I'm not going to talk about, let's just do a list of things I'm not going to talk about, right? No, today, I was thinking, I'll talk about maybe, I don't really know. I'm kind of just freeballing it right now. I actually have no idea what I want to talk about. Jobs. So, Andrew and me on yesterday's episode, talked about our first jobs. My first job was Joey's. I was a dishwasher there and then a busboy. And he made the joke that I got promoted, but no, I just was actually a pretty slow dishwasher. And I guess they just didn't want to fire me. So thank you, I guess. I've had me and my buddy Justin, who called me, previously mentioned in several episodes. We were sitting next to each other, and he's like, how many jobs have you had? And I started just, like, tally marking on a napkin. And I've had 22 jobs in my, since I was 14. I've never worked a job for more than a year and, 3 months. And I've had 22 of them in my whole life. Lots of restaurants. Lots and lots of restaurants. And I've also had, here, I'm kind of repositioning myself, making myself a little more comfy while I do this, because, got to change it up. One day you're sitting up. I got a microphone and a cord. I could lay down. Hell, I could stand up if I wanted to. So, 22 jobs is a lot. I'm not going to name them all, but I thought I'd tell the story of my worst job, Heinen's grocery store. Worst place I ever worked. So, I get hired for produce because my brother, who used to work there, said produce was the most chill. And I should have realized right away that me and him are very different. He was actually supposed to be on today too, but he would have rather gone to Melt and drive back to OU. No, I'm just kidding. I was going to surprise him by having him on it, and then we didn't plan it well. And it's my fault, Drew. Don't worry about it. So, Heinen's grocery store, produce section, which is where you take the vegetables and and you put the vegetables out on the displays, and you rotate the stock. Old, first, new, last type situation. As for the person to grab the avocado or lettuce, the head of lettuce that's been there for the longest amount of time. Again, gross, not a fun job. And it was union. And see, this is where I think me and the job really took our separate ways, which will lead me to a bigger point down the road. Union jobs are, UPS, for example, is a union job. And at UPS, you have to get off the truck a certain way. You have to take right foot first, then left, and you have to carry boxes all a certain way. And this is to prevent injury, because what unions were supposed to do were supposed to protect the worker. They were supposed to be there for the worker. So you pay, an initial union due of $100 out of your first paycheck, and then you pay $8 of every paycheck to the union, and then you get things like holiday pay, and you get things like overtime, I guess. I don't really understand it. You're paying for your rights to have a normal work environment. I don't know. It would drive me up a wall. So the first argument I get in, it's on my second day of work. I'm supposed to move pallets from one side of the store to the other, because that's what you do when you work at a grocery store. Real technical stuff. And it's a stack of pallets, maybe 10 high. I pick up 2, carry them one arm, start walking. Everybody yells at me. Literally, every single person in the back yells at me. And they yell at me because I have to push one at a time on the ground, sliding in on the ground, because that's the union way, because that way it prevents injury, I guess. And I just immediately started arguing, because I was like, well, this is going to take literally 3 times as long, because not only can I not carry it, can't carry 2 at a time. So that started it off, and then I'd leave produce to go help other customers, or to go show customers things in the store that I personally liked, and wasn't allowed to do that. So that was strike 2. And then strike 3, he called me, and he says, you requested this weekend off, and I was requesting a lot of weekends off because I was living at home, and I was trying to go travel and see my friends. And he was like, yeah, that's not going to fly. And I go, I'm not really asking. I'm just saying that, I'm going to go visit my brother. Can I get somebody to cover for me or something? He's like, we don't do covers. I'm like, well, what is it that you do? And he says, yeah, I don't think this is going to work out. Best of luck, and no hard feelings. And I go, all right, well, that's cool. And I get home, and I don't need to work there for 3 weeks. I get home, and I'm kind of nervous to tell my parents, because I was living at home at the time. I was like, I'd never gotten fired before from all the jobs that I had previously, and I was sure I was at 6 or 7 by then. And, I come in, I'm like, Mom and Dad, I got fired. And they said, oh, thank God. My mom said, oh, thank God, audibly, because they saw how miserable it was making me and how much I hated it. And they said it was soul-sucking. It was sucking my soul. It was also the only place I ever dreamt about burning down. I wasn't burning it down, but I was watching it burn down from the parking lot in my dreams, which is an intense dream to have about a work environment. Also, I know none of you can respond with me right now, but if any of you have had work dreams, comment below, because I have them all the time. My roommates have them. I'm sure you guys do too. They're a strange thing to have. There's another thing. This is real, just really me going here. This is fun. No topic. I kind of have a topic, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's so funny. Right. Work dreams. I used to, that doesn't sound right either. Used to, whatever, dream my entire high school day, and then wake up and go to high school. And oh, golly gee, is that frustrating, young man. But it was my excuse to, like, not pay as much attention because, hell, I already did it in my sleep. So, work dreams, jobs, 22 jobs, grocery store. So they fire me. Then I get a job at a hardware store, probably one of the best jobs I've ever had. Bunch of old people. Like, I think it was me. I was 19 or 20 at the time. And then I was 19, and then my next closest coworker was 42. So, like, that gap is fat. You know what I mean? And, like, what they're worried about and what I'm worried about are totally different. And it was very humbling hearing them, like, be concerned about Medicare and Medicaid and their hip replacements and all this stuff. Because the 42-year-old, and then the next gap from him was, like, 50. So it was interesting. And then the oldest guy there, I think, was, like, 72. Yeah. It was quite the place. But they didn't care how many pallets I carried. They're like, balance one on your head. You can only carry 2. Why can't you carry 4? And that's the kind of work environment I liked. Because it was very problem solving. Somebody comes up to me in produce and they say, "Where's the lettuce?" And I go, "The lettuce is over there, ma'am." Or sir. Or child. Whoever is getting the lettuce. And that's pretty much the extent of it. But at the hardware store, some guy would come in with his toilet who wasn't flushing. And he'd be like, "Where my toilet's not flushing." And I'd be like, "Okay, let me find somebody who knows." And then we'd go find them. They'd tell both of us how a toilet flushes. And then I found out how a toilet flushed. And that was awesome. I could learn something every day at a job like that. I also learned a lot about light bulbs. Tell you the truth, did not retain all that information. It's kind of, you got to only have so much floor space up in the factory. So ditched the light bulb information, but I still know that a flange is what you need to flush a toilet, which is fantastic information to have. And so it leads to my bigger point. The podcast, this 30-day podcast, is something that I really have to finish because let's start backwards and work all the way. Let's start at the front and work all the way back. Last podcast I did, 12 episodes. 90% of podcasts fail to make it to episode 13. So I didn't do that. Not Zen Shaw, David's Tea. I went to David's Tea and I said, I will do this job until I become a manager. Now, in the grand scheme of things like that, there are a lot of reasons. You know what I mean? You find out the job's not as great as you wanted. People get fired and new bosses come in place who you don't want to work under. You get opportunities to make more money at other places. All of those are factors, but still, I wrote down every day in a journal while I was doing something called journaling, I guess, that what's the goal? Be good, do good, become manager. And bailed. It's another thing. College, which again, large overarching circumstances involved. There's, is it right for me? It costs a lot. My parents gave me an opportunity to leave. I don't think it's right for me because it's very kind of more of like a union thing. But I was like a year and a half away. So I could have just sucked it up, finished the year and a half, and at least I'd have it in my pocket, right? In case. Just, not a bad thing to have in the pocket. Most of you probably have that. And I'm sure you hopefully use it. Use it to your advantage. At least I hope you do. And so, you go from there, right? Switched majors, bailed on the acting thing, went to business. Backwards again. I don't know. There's always been things I've wanted to start, always things that I've wanted to try. And I'm sure this isn't this is not unique. I'm a 24-year-old guy and you know what I mean? There's a lot of things people want to do all the time. Oh, I want to go to Europe. And then they don't end up going till they're 50. Me in particular, I wanted to start a coffee company. But, things happen. So if you don't even start, I guess you're not quitting. But you're not even starting either, which is something to be said. I don't know. It's just an interesting thing to play with. Is like the last 2 days, I didn't really have the energy to do this. And then I wasn't really prepared I'm going to keep with the honesty thing. I wasn't really prepared for this morning. If Larry would have been available. I mean, I read articles this morning about him, but I should have started reading about him 3 days ago. So I could better represent unsolicited advice with Jacob Zobrist and better represent myself. But there's that part of me waits till the last minute to do projects, doesn't go to a place till the absolute deadline. It's just who I am. I'm a procrastinator, professional procrastinator. And there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not trying to play a sad little violin here. I'm just trying to fill airtime. That's all I'm trying to do. The silliest job I ever had. What was the silly job I had? I moved antiques for a while at an antique shop, which was pretty tight. I would literally just move them around. She would just call me in after school. Hey, will you rearrange some things, hang up some new things? And I'd say sure. And then a delivery would come in, and I'd get paid fat to do that. And then that's probably the highest paying job I've ever had. I got $220 in like 15 minutes. Maybe like an hour. I think it was like $220 in like 45 minutes because I went in and I moved some stuff for like 30 minutes, and she was paying me like $40 an hour because she only needed me like once a week. So she gave me $20 for that, and then she was like, I'll give you $100 if you can take this right now to a place. And I said, sure. And then they were old people who obviously had money to buy antiques, and they tipped me $100 because it was around the holidays, and I made $220 in like 15 minutes. And it was baller, but not consistent. Doesn't happen all the time. Only happened that once. The rest of the time it was, just $20 here and there. But hey, I'd take it. Oh, I take it now. Any antique shops in the neighborhood listening to unsolicited advice, hit my line. Hit me in the DMs. Another funny job I had was I worked as a valet for a while, which was pretty cool. I got to drive some Bentleys, an Aston Martin, which was really funny because none of us could figure out how to turn it on. Actually, a hilarious story. The guy threw us the keys, and we held up the line for like 10 minutes because we couldn't figure out how to start the fucking thing, because the start button was in like the middle center of the console, but you put the key in near the wheel. It was a whole thing. Also got to see a lot of money around there, which was it's always nice to be around cash. You know what I mean? Makes you feel fancy. There's steak, there's lobsters. One time the boss, who liked me quite a bit, she let me take home. We had a big lobster bake, and that's not crab bake, lobster bake. And there's one left, like a couple left over. She let me take one home. I come home, I eat it, and I save. And it was a full lobster, and I pulled the casing where it's like, I guess its head. I know this sounds cruel, but it was dead. I pull its head off, and I put it. I sneak into my mom's room, and I put it on her shower head. So like eyes and tentacles and all are hanging off her shower head, because I was going to put it in her bed originally, but I didn't want the dog to eat it. So I put it on her shower head, and I sneak back out. And in the morning at like 8 when she had to go to work, I hear, "Arr!" And she's screaming, and it was so funny. It's probably one of the best pranks I ever played on my mom. So that was cool. That was a great job valeting. Shout out to Krista Weisberg for being such a fine boss. Also a very pretty boss, which didn't suck. I got that job because I got a speeding ticket driving her daughter home in her car. I got a speeding ticket, and she's like, "Do you need a job to pay for the ticket?" I was like, "Sure. I love another job." I currently technically have 4 jobs. I work at 3rd and Hollywood. I work at Presco Labs. I work at Grandview Cafe, only on Wednesdays, folks. Just for trivia. I just host trivia on Wednesdays, and that's all. And then I work for Hypoke, selling catering. I think that's it. Yeah, that's all 4. So when you have 4 or 2 at a time, it's not that hard to get to 22 over the course of 10 years. but it's been fun. Hit 20 minutes. There we go. I did it. I rambled on for 20 minutes without a subject. That is the mark of I'm getting better at broadcasting. See, some broadcasters have points, and they, like John Oliver, do those long 20-minute fluff pieces on one great little segment of knowledge, and those will come in these 30 days. But people who just talk to talk, maybe Joe Rogan's, you know what I'm saying? Maybe Rush Limbaugh's, maybe, I'm sure there's others. They just do this. They just keep going and going and going and try to take less and less time for pauses. And it's a beautiful thing, baby. It's a skill to develop. I'll leave you with a story. So Mike Rowe did a podcast, did an episode of the Tim Ferriss Show. Excuse me. He did an episode of the Tim Ferriss Show, and it's one of my favorite episodes of all time. Before Mike Rowe was Mike Rowe, he was, before he was Dirty Jobs, he was kind of just a freelance, gig-based, actor. And then he got a QVC show on a whim. He was singing opera, but he didn't have to be on stage till halfway through the second act. So he would go and drink beer. He would drink beer at this pub before he had to go on. And this is the kind of like the underbelly of acting that people don't really, know about, talk about as much because it's not sexy or glamorous, is that there is so much downtime on set or for a play. It's unbelievable. Like it's really kind of ridiculous. Everybody has to show up at like 7 a.m., but your scene might not start till 2. So everybody else works while you're just sitting around on set. That's why actors have such nice trailers, because there's a lot of downtime. So you go hang out in your trailer, but you still got to be present on set and all that. But the difference with a play is that once the play's in production and going, and it can be in production, like on Broadway, for example, for years, it just becomes super, super monotonous, and people kind of go nuts and get very bored of it and get very, just like anything monotonous in any job, really. If you have to do it for a long time, it kind of starts to suck. So Mike Rowe, he's in an opera because he's an opera singer. A little known fun fact. And he's drinking a beer, watching the Vikings game. Commercial hits. It's QVC. And the bartender goes and he starts taking notes. And Mike Rowe is like, what are you taking notes on? And he's like, they're doing open casting calls for this tomorrow. And Mike Rowe goes, that's hilarious. Are you auditioning? And he goes, yeah, of course. Once you get that gig, you're set for a long time. And Mike Rowe goes, I bet you my bar tab that I can get it without a doubt. And the guy goes, sure. So they make the bet. Mike Rowe goes in the next day, and they go, he walks into the audition room, and they hand him a pencil, a yellow number 2 pencil, Ticonderoga, and they say, sell us this pencil for 20 minutes, nonstop, go. And so when you're told to sell something for 20 minutes, you really kind of got to start to think, okay, well, this is a pencil. It's used to write. It'll help you in all your, daily tasks. That's 2 seconds. And then you got to go into, well, this color yellow, founded in psychology to be a very vibrant color to help find it in your desk. It's quickly available. We source it from wherever. We get this from that, and we attach the eraser in such a way that it'll never wiggle. And then you got to keep going and going and going. And I just kept going and going and going for 24 minutes and 15 seconds. And with that, folks, have a good day. Thank you for letting me bother you for 25 minutes. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Unsolicited Advice.
I'm not always right. I'm only trying to be nice with my unsolicited advice. Unsolicited advice.